Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Data here, and welcome at long last to the 2024 NHL Stanley Cup final preview between the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. Today, we'll be going through the Eastern and Western Conference Finals, going through them a little bit. What predictions that were made kind of maybe came true in some ways. What was anticipated, what was expected, what was shown to us, and what does it make us think about the Stanley Cup final for both the Oilers and the Panthers. The Panthers taking down the New York Rangers and the Oilers defeating the Dallas Stars. How does this fare in their overall look going towards just 4 wins away from the Stanley Cup? Are we confident? Are we saying there's not as much left in the tank as you would think? It's going to be a few different ways we could view it, and I think that it is going to be an explosive series. Both teams do so much so well, as you would think in any Stanley Cup final, but it's going to come down to a few of the things that we're going to cover in today's video. So thank you for joining us this afternoon. Hobbsy, Gen Z, Doggy, welcome to the stream, everybody. As we're just going to be going through the round that was as well as the round that will be. As you can see on the bracket, I'm going to pull up in just a moment. It was not the greatest time for me in the in terms of the predictions from the beginning, but overall it was an okay bracket. Let me go ahead and pull that up for you here. I'm just getting the scores from the games that were. So the Panthers taking down the President's Trophy winning New York Rangers. It was maybe not expected that the Panthers would have done what they did in such a fashion. Zibanejad being held to no goals, Panarin being held to just 1 goal, stuff like that. I don't think that was as expected. I think it was thought that the Panthers were going to be maybe not, I don't know if you would call them the favorites, but I did see it going the Panthers' way. Meanwhile, for the Oilers, I think it was thought that the offense can't go forever. They're going to run into Jake Ottinger, and it's just not going to work out in the same way. But in the end, we have the Panthers facing the Oilers. So here we go. Now I can pull this up. Here we go. So perfect. The scores here as the Panthers took it in a 6-game series and the Oilers as well in a 6-game series. We'll get back to that in a moment. But the bracket itself at my very beginning, I thought, hey, let's go Canucks and Rangers. I remember thinking I wanted to go off the board a little bit. I had a lot of faith in the Panthers from the beginning. I thought it might go Canucks, Panthers, and Canucks win anyways. But regardless, after a perfect first round, it fell apart for me. Unfortunate, but what are you going to do? I'm just happy to be enjoying the hockey along the way. H. Shaw says, I want the Oilers to get swept. Now I don't have a bias because I'm a Canucks fan. Why would anyone think that? That's just silly. No, of course not. And Warmaster says, what's going on, Data? Hope you are doing good today. Thank you very much, Warmaster. Hope you are as well. So let's get straight to it, breaking down the series that were. Starting off with the Panthers. We'll go in the Eastern Conference. Let's start off right away. The Panthers opened it up with a 3-0 victory in New York over the Rangers at Madison Square Garden. A lot of tight games in this series, as we see every single game decided by 1 goal. So more than just a number of tight games. Every game in this series decided by 1 goal. After that 3-0 victory, I should say. So 3-0 to start it off, and then 2-1 overtime, 5-4 overtime, 3-2 overtime, 3 back-to-back overtimes, back-to-back, 3-2 Panthers, 2-1 Panthers. So in a lot of ways, this series could have gone either way. What's very encouraging to me about this Panthers squad is that they were facing the possibility of a super high-octane power play. Zibanejad, Panarin, all those guys, and they held them, not just the top scorers, but the team as a whole, to such low-scoring games. The Rangers getting shut out, scoring 2. 5 goals in Game 3, okay. But after that, 2 goals, 1 goal. Sergei Bobrovsky just shut it down after that. Marcel saying, hi there, all the best from Hungary. Well, welcome, my friend. Thank you for joining us. Let me pull that one up. Thank you very much for joining us on the stream. That's why I wanted to get it done a little earlier, not the usual 7 or 8 p.m. I said, let's do it at 5, so anyone watching overseas is able to join us. Well, Marcel, thank you for the kind words. We welcome you to the stream. So that being said, the Rangers offense was held. Can the Panthers do that in the same way to the Oilers? We'll break that down in a little bit and talk about the impact of Gustav Forsling. That's going to be a big one, a big point of what I want to get to later on. And then yeah, okay, let's look at the numbers now a little bit more before we jump to the other series. So if we start just in the Eastern Conference, if we go over here, we see the Panthers don't have the craziest, flashiest offense. That's a fact. Matthew Tkachuk has 19 points. Barkov and Verhaeghe are point per game plus. But after that, like 12 points in 17 games is still great. Over a course of an 82-game season, that is still a 58-point pace. That's still fine. But there's no one who's really running away with crazy offense in the same way that the Oilers have that. No one's in the 20s, no one's in the 30s, but that is okay. It's not all about the offense. When we think about this Panther squad and how well-rounded it is, yes, you start on the surface. On the surface level, the points don't look crazy. 12 from Lundell, 12 from Sam Reinhart with 8 goals, though. Gustav Forsling, 11 points plus 11. Bennett with 10 and 12 is great. Montour, Rodriguez, only 3 goals, you might say. Tarasenko, only 3 goals, you might say as well. And down we go here. Especially if you're looking at ice time as well. If we sort by ice time here in this Panther squad, we see lots of, not quite the Miro Heiskanen level in Dallas, as we'll see in a moment, but Montour, Forsling playing huge minutes. Gustav Forsling has had, a guy with a more offensive reputation, has been one of the biggest shutdown pieces of the postseason so far. And I think that would have to put him in Conn Smythe conversations, at least at the very least right now. Ekblad also, if you look at the forwards, Sam Reinhart playing close to 22 minutes per night. Both he and Barkov are playing tons of ice time together. Reinhart and Barkov are just monsters out there. So especially if you look at the lines, it's on the right wing, correct, as Verhaeghe's on the left. So Barkov and Reinhart have been a great team on the first line, on the first unit power play, all of that. Also, first unit power play, correct? I'm trying to memorize all the lines always in my mind. Yeah, so he's on the left side on the first unit power play. That's why I was getting confused with the left and the right. So Reinhart and Barkov combining to do so much so well. Jaws, perfect timing to be watching while you put a desk chair together. Beautiful. Over in the Eastern Conference, though, so we saw when we initially broke this down a couple weeks ago, we saw a lot of scary things in this New York Rangers squad. We saw Vinny Trocheck, we saw Zibanejad. Okay, the goals have been not really coming, but still, he was point per game plus. We had Panarin, we had Lafreniere who was tearing it up, Chris Kreider who was coming off of his Game 7 hat trick against the Hurricanes. Was it Game 7 or Game 6 hat trick? So yeah, Game 6 hat trick. No. Yes, Game 6 hat trick, excuse me. Adam Fox, Jack Rozovic, some good depth. Barclay Goodrow was scoring like a machine at one point as well. Jacob Trouba eating big minutes. And we look at the ice time again. You have those top guys. You have the Foxes. But then Trocheck, of all forwards, eating the most ice time of any forward, I believe it was up until that point at the beginning of the last round. So that's it. Yeah, don't worry about that. That's them. We're looking just at the surface level here for a moment, because yes, their top guys did not show up when needed. So this is the entire postseason. I'm saying as we went into this third round, the Eastern Conference Final, we thought that they were going to give the Panthers a run for their money. Not only, can't say that it was all a choke, it's also the Panthers shutting them down. Namely, you think about the Forslings, the Montours, the Ekblads. But on top of that, you have players who are eating big minutes, playing big minutes. Trocheck over 23 minutes per night. And he continued to do what he could do. But when the rest of the team wasn't supporting him in the same way, it became much more difficult. Now, Igor Shesterkin still did his job. When you think about goals saved above expected, of all the goalies who played, let's say, 10 games or more, by far, well, actually, no. Let me say, actually, of the entire postseason, just below Igor, just below Jeremy Swayman, 4 less games played, 0.2 goals allowed more than Swayman, but he saved 13.1 above expected. 13.1 goals saved above expected from Igor Shesterkin. He gave the Rangers the best chance possible. Meanwhile, Sergei Bobrovsky, he's been good. He's been above average. He's been solid. He got that Game 1 shutout as well. He's been holding them to 1 goal, 2 goals, only saving 4.8 goals above expected. Okay, if you look at all the goalies who have played the most games, and we look at maybe guys who have played like 10 games plus, he's above average. He's above average. Ottinger did more. Swayman, Igor did more. But Bobrovsky did what he had to do, and then some. I think we can say that. So the goaltending was great for the Rangers, but it did not come through in a lot of different ways. If you look at the team stats here, so the New York Rangers, their power play, which was in the 30s or the high, was it 29 point something, or was it even into the 30s? That came back down to earth to 20. Well, it's still high, but came back down to 24%. And their penalty kill, which is also quite high, I believe that was in the high 80s, came down to 84.2. So they got torn up a little bit on the special teams. The Panthers, meanwhile, at a 23.3% power play, isn't even anything too wild when you consider the rest of the teams, like the Oilers at 37. So the Panthers have a good power play, but their penalty kill really showed itself against such a strong power play with the Rangers at 88.2. Yeah, don't forget Lundell for sure. Welcome, Leafs King. Warmaster saying, that's what makes Florida scary, though. They have so many options. The depth is unreal. Bennett, Reinhart, Barkov, Kachuk, Verhaeghe, Tarasenko, and playoff Bob. Yes. I hear you. I hear you. I think Florida has the advantage because they were also there last year. That's the thing. Florida coming into the Stanley Cup final this year is not the same Florida team as last year, as they forget the experience, just the injuries. The injuries. It was Kachuk had what, a torn labrum. You had was it Reinhardt? Ekblad had like what, a broken foot. Reinhardt was out as well. So there were a lot of injuries, a lot of banged up players on that Panthers squad. To have the experience, the hunger, the health, that's a lot going in Florida's favor. But we don't want to go too deep just yet. So that's the Panthers and the Rangers series. Not the craziest in-depth look, but just to say, the Panthers shut them down. And actually, if we look at this, I was looking at the New York Times article here from The Athletic. Gustav Forsling versus Edmonton Stars will be interesting because in round one, you had Forsling against Kucherov, and the Panthers earned 53% of expected goal share in their 48 head-to-head 5-on-5 minutes, but were outscored 2-1. Okay. In round two, Forsling matched up with David Pastrnak, and Pastrnak was really quiet. He was shut down by Forsling. In over 52 minutes of shared ice, Florida stayed above even with 51% of the expected goals and a 3-2 edge in scoring, plus David Pastrnak being led to almost nothing. Then finally, in round three, Forsling was primarily matched up with Mika Zibanejad. The Rangers didn't muster much in those minutes when Forsling was out there, with 0 goals, while Florida scored twice, earning an almost 69% expected goals rate. So I found that was just an interesting stat as I was just doing a little bit of research. I found that was quite interesting about Gustav Forsling and how he had such an impact on the series, on Mika Zibanejad, on the New York Rangers. I think there's more that could be said about it, but it's very unfortunate to see that Igor Shesterkin, for all that he did, 13.1 goal saves above expected, 967 save percentage on unblocked shots. He was stopping. If he could see it, he was stopping it. 956. Sorry, that's expected. So that's save percentage. Save percentage above expected, 0.01. That's interesting. Goals against ever better than expected. Wins, but actually, and his WAR, wins above replacement, his value, that's a crazy value as well. Wins above replacement. So essentially, if a replacement level player for a goaltender is a third goalie, not a backup, but a third goalie, if I'm understanding it correctly, put whatever third goalie it would be with the Rangers in Igor Shesterkin's place, and the Rangers win 2.19 games less. So Igor Shesterkin, in terms of wins above replacement on Money Puck, the second most valuable goalie of the entire postseason, and pretty much twice as valuable as anybody else, if not more, aside from Jeremy Swayman. So I find that's a very interesting stat too. I find that is a very interesting stat. Pull up the comments here. Here comes Slim coming in. Here's Slim. I want the Panthers to win, man. Oilers got a Mickey Mouse run. Would have lost if the Canucks had Demko and if Hyman got suspended and Besser out in Game 7. I hear you, Slim. Okay, it's your opinion. Forsling should have been a Norris Trophy finalist. Also at a plus 56 for sure. Yeah, Forsling, he definitely, I didn't see the votes, but I think Forsling was in there for some votes at least. And H. Jaw saying the Canucks would have beaten the Oilers because their main issue was they didn't shoot. However, they play more aggressive with Demko in net. That's the thing as well. When you look at the Canucks series, now we'll get into the Western Conference now. When you look at the Canucks and the Oilers series, the Oilers scared me a little bit in this series. With no Demko, no Besser, and I guess those are two of the biggest ones for the Canucks. The Oilers kind of squeaked it out, in my opinion. There were so many moments where the puck just seemed to be pinned in the Oilers zone and it was just tick, 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 Canucks, Canucks, Canucks. And to say that they didn't quite get past that against Dallas, I found there were a good, maybe not a majority, but there was a decent enough number of games where I said Dallas is dominating right now, or at least just in the driver's seat. I don't know if that would be also dominating, but at least in the driver's seat. Yet the Oilers continue to find a way, with whether it be the 2 goals on 8 shots they had in Game 6, or just I don't know, bad luck in overtime. I don't know what it is. But the Oilers, they won 3-2 in double overtime, 3-1 Stars after that. Okay. The Dallas Stars score 5. They're in the driver's seat, 2-1. Then the Oilers score 5. It's a 2-2 series. Oilers score a win 3-1 in a tight matchup with an empty netter, I believe, and then a 2-1 with 2 goals on 8 shots through the first 45 minutes. I know, no problem, Landon. I understand. So the Oilers, not that they got lucky. I'm not saying that. It's not that they got lucky, but they definitely had some favorable instances go their way. They definitely had that. I think it's fair to say that. If Stuart Skinner did not make 35 saves or whatever it was in Game 6, and Jake Ottinger did not allow 2, and McDavid did not go McDavid mode. I know that's a lot of ifs, and if my cousin had pedals, he'd be a bike, or whatever that it's all ifs. But I'm just saying, it's not luck, but it did take a few good circumstances for the Oilers to get through this series. Because again, when you look at Jake Ottinger and what he was doing as well, third most valuable goalie in terms of wins above replacement at 1.22. He had his own 7.3 goals saved above expected, third highest in the postseason. And meanwhile, Stuart Skinner, while he's gotten a lot better and he has stolen some moments, he's still not quite at that same value at 0.34 wins above replacement. Only a third of a win can really be, I don't know if you can say ascribed to him, but the value that he brings is 0.33 or 0.34, a third of a win. Meanwhile, Ottinger brings 1.25. I don't want to go all in on wins above replacement, but I do like looking at that stat. So that being said, Jake Ottinger definitely had the edge goaltending-wise up until Game 6, I suppose. Both goalie allowed 5 goals at one point or another. If we look at the points now, look at the Edmonton Oilers, 1, 2, 3, and if you tied Nugent Hopkins in 4th, 4 of the top 5 scorers in the postseason, all from the Edmonton Oilers. So their offense is out of this world. McDavid only 5 goals, but 26 assists, 31 points from him. You look at Draisaitl with 28, Bouchard 27, Nuge with 20, Hyman point per game with 14 goals and 18 points. The Oilers' depth scoring was the difference. In the big moments, yes. But you can't say, oh, the Oilers are here because Warren Fogle did it. He did it. Well, let's also be honest that they have 5 point per game plus players. Let's be honest here. As much as the depth came through, let's be honest. Aside from that, so Evander Kane with 8, Ekholm 7, Kulak, Adam Henrique. Can we sort by game winners here? Yeah, so the game-winning goals. Bouchard with 3, Hyman with 3, Draisaitl 2. Matthias Janmark's the only guy who's not a top 6 player with a game-winning goal. So that's not the only metric as well, but let's be honest here, Slim. It's not only the depth. The plus minuses at the bottom here are what really scares me for the Edmonton Oilers. For sure. When McDavid has such a high point total, people want to focus on him. The depth is there, but I am scared by what's going on here at the bottom. Perry plays 11-15, he's a -2. Ryan plays to be only playing 9 minutes a night and be a -6. Eesh, that scares me. Vinny Desharnais, who's been out pretty much for Broberg, he was a -8 through 15 games. Darnell Nurse playing 20 minutes per night, -13 is the biggest one that stands out to you. But these guys were playing like 10 minutes or less-ish, whatever, per night, and like close to negative double digits, if not in double digits. That's what's really scaring me from the Oilers as well. I don't really have much confidence in Cody Ceci and Darnell Nurse to continue to do what they've been doing. Meanwhile, the Dallas Stars, they carved that up a little bit, and it had to come down to depth versus depth and a little bit of favorable circumstances to make it happen. Yeah, Darnell, yikes. Wyatt Johnston, 10 goals, 16 points. Heiskanen, 16 points, playing over 28 minutes per night. Robertson, 16. Not a high-octane offense as much, but more well-rounded. Jamie Benn turning back the clock a little bit. Tyler Seguin looking good. Stan Kovin, Rupe Hintz, 8 and 15. But when it came down to it at the bottom here, Joe Pavelski, so sad about Joe. Big Joe Pavelski. Just not a lot. Not a lot. 1 goal from Faxa. You need to get a little bit of something from these guys. You got to have a little bit of offense somewhere. Too many players with just 1 goal sprinkled in here and there. Matt Duchene, 2 goals, 1 game winner, the heartbreaker against the Avalanche, but only 2 goals from Matt Duchene in 19 games. That was a bit of the downfall for the Dallas Stars as well. If you look at the team stats between Dallas here and Edmonton, so Edmonton, crazy power play, 37.3, penalty kill at 93.9. You got to give it to them on the special teams. Meanwhile, Dallas, their power play at 20. 1 out of 5 versus over 1 out of 3. So the Oilers capitalized in that regard. And the penalty kill, Dallas took a big hit, going down to 67.6. They're allowing a power play goal 3 times out of 10, over 3 times out of 10, right? So that's, hey, welcome, Mighty Joe. So that's another big issue as well. Now, if it comes down to the special teams, I don't think the Panthers will buckle in the same way. The Oilers are not going to be able to rely on the special teams in the same way and rely on 2-1 games, I don't think, in the same way. That's in my mind. Now, I'm just taking a look at the shots per game as well. I don't want to go too much into the Stanley Cup final yet either. I'm trying to break down the series that were. Okay, I'm going to hold. I have too many thoughts going through my head at once. I'm going to hold back. So that's that. Scoring. So then we look at the goaltending, and especially defense. So Evan Bouchard had 27 points, almost twice as much as anybody else who's left. Forsling down at 11. Again, not about the points, but I'm just looking at it and just interesting to see what kind of how it's crazy what Evan Bouchard is doing. Goals against average, if you look at Bobrovsky at 2.2 and we compare that to Skinner at 2.5, it's a 0.3 difference. And in save percentage, it's 897 for Skinner down here somewhere, while Bobrovsky's at 908 at the moment. Okay, we get it, Slim. Thank you. We get it. So that's Dallas. Excuse me. So Dallas, they did a good job. I like their effort in so many different ways. They got shots on net. They had good sustained pressure. The special teams hurt them a lot. Stuart Skinner stepping up in big moments hurt them a lot. And their lack of scoring when it was needed the most is what killed them, I think, in my mind, as they mustered just 2 goals in the final 2 games of the series. The series is tied 2-2. They lose 3 in a row, actually. Since going up 2-1 in the series, they scored 4 goals in 3 games. They go up 2-1 and they lose scoring 2 goals, lose scoring 1 goal, lose scoring 1 goal. So that's what really the Dallas Stars weren't able to pull it out in the end. They couldn't find the goal scoring when it mattered the most. And the Oilers continued to have their sustained offense, even though Ottinger did as much as he could. He was still allowing 2 goals or 3 goals, which is expected. And the Stars did not support Ottinger enough with the effort that was being made. Let me go back here. Of course, yeah, Pete DeBoer. Of course it is, Slim. I save that for your video at the end, for our breakdown at the end, Slim. Slim and I are going to have a breakdown at the end. Good point from Gen Z. I wonder if the Nurse and Seth Jones contracts contribute to the ridiculous asks for defense in EA franchise. I wonder. Yeah, you called him. You saw he didn't adjust. You saw his whiteboard in the dressing room. Good old Slimmy baby. Okay, so that being said, let me get into a bit more of my thoughts on the Stanley Cup final itself. Moving in now. So we have the Panthers and the Oilers. It's a very exciting one. I think all my tabs are ready to go here. Let me just go to the Oilers and the Panthers. Slimmy baby. I can't wait for Slim and I to have his the roundtable discussion on who his biggest chokers of the postseason were. Excuse me. Perfect time to come back. There you go, Landon. All right, and I think we can close this now. So, just to recap how it's looking points wise, coming into the series, the top scorer on the Panthers would be the 5th highest scorer on the Oilers. So points wise, the Oilers definitely have that. Absolutely, hands down. However, as we're seeing with the stats right here, between the Oilers and the Panthers, the Oilers are scoring 3.5 goals per game, but the Panthers are allowing 2.29. Meanwhile, the Panthers score 3.24, and the Oilers allow 2.61. So in terms of the difference here, just in terms of goals for versus goals against, the difference between the 2 teams, the Panthers would have the upper hand in that regard. On top of that, the power play very much, again, in the Oilers' favor, scoring over 1 in 3 chances, while the Panthers score close to 1 in 4 chances. And the penalty kill is also very strong in Edmonton with 93.9 versus the Panthers' 88.2. So again, I still give the special teams edge to the Oilers. However, if that were to be shut down, always the big if. It hasn't really been yet, but it's always the big if. If that were to happen, the Oilers would have to find their goal scoring in a different way. And when we look at the Oilers scoring, and if I look at even strength points right here, McDavid, 17 even strength points in 18 games. Still great, but not 31. Bouchard, 15 and 18. Still great, but not 27. Draisaitl, 14 and 18. Still great, but not 28. Hyman, 13 and 18. Nuge, 11 and 18, etc., etc., etc. But for the Panthers side of things, I think it's going to be a lot closer. 13 and 17 for Kachuk. Not crazy, but much closer to 19. Only a 6-point difference. Verhaeghe, 5-point difference. Lundell, 2-point difference. Forsling, 1-point difference. So the Panthers are able to do it at even strength. Are the Oilers also able to do it at even strength? Absolutely. But it's interesting to see that there is a larger divide in their even strength points and their power play points. Maybe you could say, oh, well, that's why wouldn't they capitalize on their power plays? That's not their fault that they're getting a lot of power plays and capitalizing on it. Absolutely. But when I look at their top scorers and see 30, 20, blah, 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 it's not as scary if I think 17, 15, 14, 13 versus 13, 12, 10, 10. The Oilers still have the edge, for sure, but it's not as scary as 31, 28, 27 versus 19, 17, 17, 12. You get what I'm saying? So that's when it comes to on paper with the scoring, that's that. Goaltending wise, Stuart Skinner is 11-5, 897 save percentage, 2.5 goals against average, and Sergei Bobrovsky, he had no shutouts, eh? Skinner in this last series? No, he had some good games of limiting the Stars to 1 goal, absolutely. So when you look at the Florida Panthers, Bobrovsky 12-5, 908 save percentage, 2.2 goals against average. But how do we look at the story a little bit deeper than that? Goals saved above expected, as always, to start off. Bobrovsky at 4.8 versus Skinner at 2.1. Those numbers have changed over the course of the playoffs. Bobrovsky has increased slightly, while I think Skinner has had the bigger turnaround from the negatives now being very much in the positives. Now, when I look at the value they provide in terms of wins above replacement, I'm always curious in that. I see, is it already being sorted? Yes. I see Bobrovsky at 0.79, but where is... Oh, sorry, he 0.34. I thought I was scrolling all the way down to like the 0.0s. So 0.34 versus 0.79. It's, about a half game difference-ish. 0.45. We're getting close to a half game difference there. So I think there's value in that, you got to say. I wouldn't say, again, it's the breaking point, but it does show me something that adds to the larger picture. So if we go back, sorry, I just want to look at players now. Speaking of wins above replacement, I'm curious to see that. That's it. The Skinner hate, I do think, is a bit insane here. I do think that he's improved very much, but I still think that the Oilers, not that they've had an easy path, but if I'm Stuart Skinner, I would have rather faced the Kings, the Canucks, and the Stars as opposed to the Lightning, the Bruins, and the Rangers. I think that's just a fact. As much as Stuart Skinner did a very good job, I think it's a fact that I'd rather have faced the 3 teams Edmonton did than the 3 teams the Panthers did. Can we look at wins above replacement here? Does it show us? Did I already pass it? There's a lot of things here. I probably have already passed it. Give me a second here. So I think Skinner is the worst of the. Yeah, I think that's also a fair thing to say. There's only 2 goalies, so if you say, "Oh, you're the worst of both of them," it's not making the craziest statement. Here, I found it. Wins above replacement. Oh no, that was for goalies. Give me a second here. He wasn't really tested in the same way against Dallas with some of their. It depends. It definitely depended on the game. If we look at players, I'm trying to get it here on Money Puck. Excuse me here for a moment. Replace. Oh, the stat wasn't even. No, okay. I didn't see it because it wasn't there. So I guess it doesn't show it for the forwards. Okay, Money Puck doesn't do that. Okay, well, good to know, at least. So if we're looking at forwards so far, though, if we look at what's a good metric that we could look at that they provide here. Here, Slim's going to love this. Defensive zone giveaways. Here you go, Slimmy. Eat up. Defensive zone giveaways. 16 for Ekblad. Is that bad for you, Slim? 9 for Desharnais, 9 for Ekholm. No, that was just for Slim. Goals, blah, blah, shots for block. Okay, so I think I'm going to stop on the Money Puck. Sorry. And when I look at the ice time share, the last thing I want to look at, ice time share between these 2 teams. When I think about how Gustav Forsling will be put on the backs of McDavid, Draisaitl, he shut down Kucherov to an extent. He shut down Pastrnak. He shut down Zibanejad. Will Forsling be able to shut down McDavid and Draisaitl, mostly McDavid? That's a big question right there. Brandon Montour, can he keep eating up those minutes and doing what he's been doing? There's a question there. Can Ekblad also be playing and stay healthy and do those 22.5 minutes plus per night? Another question there. I think any of the top 4 defensemen probably, or at least top 3, any of the top 3 defensemen in Florida are better than any of the defensemen in Edmonton, I think, right now. I think that's an important point to make. I think the Oilers have the forward edge. I think they have the special teams edge. But I think the Panthers have a huge advantage on defense and an advantage on goaltending. I think that has to be recognized as well. So when I think about the minutes that these guys can eat and the performances they have done so far with those minutes that they've played versus the Oilers, who, yes, you give 20 minutes to Darnell Nurse, but those can be an ugly 20 minutes. You got to rely so much on Bouchard, and that's okay. McDavid playing 22:55, that's okay, but now he has Forsling on him. Will he be able to continue to do what he's been doing? Ekholm, Draisaitl, Hyman, etc. When you look at your depth, the first forward after anyone in the top six, the first non-top six forward, not even Kane, because when you look at the lines here, Evander Kane, he's now up on the second line. He hasn't been, but if we say, okay, we'll say as if Evander Kane, he was playing third line before. My first non-top six player is around 14, 15 minutes. Then for the Panthers, my first non-top six player, probably, could I say, if I look at the Panthers lines, Anton Lundell maybe? The first non-top six player in Anton Lundell is playing 16:36, extra couple minutes right there. So I think there's more of a reliance on depth, more of a trust on in depth when it comes to Florida. You have a bunch of players playing in the 15-16 range, while in Edmonton it's more 15-14-13. And at the bottom, the guys ugly plus minuses. Again, Warren Fogle, 12 minutes, -8. Derek Ryan plays 9 minutes, he's a -6. Well, for the Panthers, their depth has not been amazing, but I'd rather take Kevin Stenlund's 11:26 and a -1, and Ryan Lomberg's 7:42 and a -2. But again, 5 games played, just in general. Plus minus not the be-all end-all, but it's just something that I think is noticeable. Finally, when we look at the draft at the lines themselves to finish it off, these are how the lines are looking as of today. We have Nugent Hopkins, McDavid, Hyman on the first line, Holloway, Draisaitl, Kane on the second, Janmark, Henrique, Brown on the third, and McLeod, Ryan, Perry on the fourth. McLeod and Perry were playing second line with Draisaitl with Draisaitl, I believe. McLeod and Perry were playing with Draisaitl on the second line. Now we move down to the fourth. So a little shuffle there in the bottom six as well. This is the lineup that the Oilers would be running with. Heavy reliance on the top six. Defense, Ekholm and Bouchard, you got to be pumping them out like 26 minutes per night. Nurse and Kulak, I like that you broke up Nurse and Ceci. Nurse and Kulak doesn't give me a ton of support either. Like, I like Brett Kulak, Canadiens fan. He used to be here. I thought Kulak did well for what he was. I think he's like a third guy. Trying to get him to play 20 minutes per night, if that's what you're going to get him to do, I don't know if that's going to go super well. Then Broberg with Ceci, that also gives me worries on the third pair. Power play, Hyman, Nuge, Draisaitl, Bouchard, McDavid, no problem. Second unit is where it kind of leaves question marks. Perry, Henrique, Kane, Ekholm, Nurse, not really players who have really done anything power play-wise so far in the postseason, right? If I look at power play points, it's all coming from that top unit. Am I right in saying, yeah, so Nurse, Ekholm, Kane, 1 point each there, while on the first unit, everyone has between 5 and 14 points. So that would be Edmonton. Pound and Kill, Nuge, McLeod, Ekholm, Ceci, Janmark, Brown, Kulak, Nurse. There you go. Then over in Florida, Verhaeghe, Barkov, Reinhart. Love that line. If we're matching lines to lines, love that line, but I give it to the Oilers for sure with Nuge, McDavid, Hyman. Second line, Tkachuk, Bennett, Rodriguez. Draisaitl's big, but I think I give the line overall to the Panthers. You have your leading point scorer, a guy who has a couple points shy of point per game here. Rodriguez has been slow. Okay. Third line, I see Janmark, Henrique, Brown versus Luostarinen, Lundell, Tarasenko. I give that one to the Panthers. Fourth line, Longberg, Stenlund, and Okposo versus McLeod, Ryan, and Perry. 2 guys who have had really bad plus minuses, especially. Again, I think I give that to the Panthers. So at even strength, I'm going there. Yeah. First, yeah. Come on, Slim. I'm saying you can't say that Nuge, McDavid, and Hyman doesn't get the edge against Verhaeghe, Barkov, and Reinhart. 2 incredible two-way players, maybe even the Conn Smythe front runner. But I know you don't want to focus on points at all, but you got to give the guy with 31 points in 18 games a little bit of respect. I know Barkov and Reinhart are going to be shutting them down. Forsling's going to be on him. I'm not saying that it's a guarantee that the Oilers' top line beats the Panthers' top line. But I'm saying as of today, what I've seen, what has been the trend so far, it's tight. It's not a blowout, but I think the first line in Edmonton is, I don't know if the word is scarier than the first line in Florida. Okay? All right. Thank you. All right. Slim agrees. Thank you. But after that, I give the second, third, and fourth line all to Florida. Now, when we go to the power play and defense, again, Forsling Ekblad, bang. Mikkola Montour, bang. Mikkola, of course, a bit of the weaker link there, but I think you can survive when you have these top three guys. Third pair, Ekman Larsson and Kulikov, bang. I love these guys here. OEL, looking for that Stanley Cup. I love it. Dmitry Kulikov, first round pick of the Panthers back in 2009. I remember having I had a crazy NHL 09 Panthers squad with Kulikov, Stephen Weiss, Sean Bergenheim, Thomas Fleischman. Who else was there? Was Jose Theodore the goalie that year? I had a crazy squad. Anyways, Mikkel's been great. I'm just saying he's not on the same level as Forsling, Ekblad, and Montour. He's been great, no problem. I'm just saying he hasn't been one of the top three guys in that same regard. For sure, though. Play great. Yes, yeah. Panthers play great two-way hockey. Yes, I can definitely agree on that. First power play unit, so Reinhart, Barkov, Verhaeghe, Montour, Tkachuk. I think that's underrated. Everyone's talking about the Oilers' power play, but I think you got to give some respect here to the Panthers' power play too. Second power play, Bennett, Lundell, Tarasenko, Ekman Larsson, and Rodriguez. And again, more of a share in the power play. For the Oilers, it's that first unit is one of the best units in history, it looks like. But that seems to be it. The second unit has a combined 2 points. Meanwhile, when it comes to the Panthers, their power play isn't crazy, but it's much more spread out in terms of the point share. I think that's something to mention. Finally, the penalty kill, Barkov, Reinhart, Mikkola, Kulikov. This is just art. This is art. And second unit, Stenlund, Luostarinen, Forsling, Ekblad. There you have it. Okay. So when it's all said and done, and I like that as well. For more, I like that. I think it's kind of balanced with the second lines, though. I like Evander Kane's underrated. Well, he's been playing third line, so I guess you gotta take that with a grain of salt too. That's it. If we're not factoring in error, I'm just saying pure numbers based. So when it's all said and done, ladies and gentlemen, I think all that being said, I know people have been criminally sleeping on the Edmonton Oilers. People, I think it was pretty much favorable for the Oilers in round one, but in round two and in round three, and now in the Stanley Cup final, the Oilers are continually being underrated, and they're continually having to fight from having that underdog label. That being said, I don't think just because the underdogs, I have to say, well, you got to put respect on their name. I think the Oilers might push it to 7 and they might take it. I got to say, I still am very confident in the Florida Panthers. They are hungry. They are still thinking about last year. They are maybe not fully healthy, but they are much healthier than last year. They are scarier than last year. They're not on a Cinderella run where they beat the Bruins. They are who they are. The Panthers are who we thought they were. And here they now are in the Stanley Cup final, ready to take it. The Oilers do so much so well on top of, in their own regard, but I'm not confident in their depth as much. I'm not confident in their defense as much. And as good as Stuart Skinner has been, I'm not as confident in him as I am in Bobrovsky. I think I'm trying to keep it as fair as possible. Kind of like what I said with the Panthers and the Rangers. I said the Panthers are taking it, but with no disrespect to the Rangers. Same thing here. I think the Panthers are taking it, but with no disrespect to the Oilers. I see it being a 6-game series. And as famous last words, when it was Colorado and Dallas, I said Colorado in 6, and it's closer to 5 than 7. I'm going to say Panthers in 6, and it's closer to 5 than 7. Prove me wrong. Win the first Canadian Stanley Cup in 31 years. Get McDavid and Draisaitl their rings. Get Corey Perry a Stanley Cup ring in his 5th Stanley Cup final. Nothing would make me happier. But I got to say, just from my own point of view, from the hockey that I know and the hockey that I've watched and the numbers, the analysis, whatever it is, I'm giving the edge to the Panthers in 6, and I think it's closer to 5 than 7. That's what I think right there. It is crazy to think that a team with McDavid being the underdog is wild to think about. Just jinx the Panthers with that one. Sorry, Landon. Sorry. So, if you're an Oilers fan, you disagree with me, let me know why. I don't necessarily disagree with you either. I just think if you're going to make an argument for the Oilers, which you can, there are a lot of arguments for the Panthers that you got to break down, and that won't be as easy to do. And that's true. I'm not going to lie. Growing up as a Jose Theodore fan, I always liked the teams that he played for. So my number one team is always the Canadiens. My number two team has always been the Avalanche, former Nordiques, Patrick Waugh, all that stuff. And thankfully, Theodore also played for them, coincidence. But my third, fourth, fifth team, it's always kind of been Florida. I liked Minnesota when Theodore was there. I always liked the Mighty Ducks. So I will admit, maybe there's something deep in my subconscious that's telling me I like the Panthers more because I've had some time with them in franchise modes in my life and stuff like that. But I'm trying to keep it as balanced as possible. Geometry, let's go Oilers. Yes, I would love that. Let's go Oilers. Getting them a cup, as much as it's nice to say, oh, the Montreal Canadiens were the last team to do it, I'd love to see a Canadian team win the Stanley Cup. I'd love to see McDavid get his ring. When you think about Crosby and Lemieux, they did it after what? Lemieux did it in 91. That was what? Like his, what was that? Like his fourth season? Something like, was that, am I way off base? Crosby won in 09. That was his fourth season as well. You have McDavid now in what? Is it his eighth season, ninth season? Yeah, you don't want to leave it to the end. As magical as the Alex Ovechkin story was, with Draisaitl's contract coming up soon enough and the money situation in Edmonton, you'd want to see them do it, and I would love to have that happen. But I still think, in my mind, it's the Panthers who have the edge. Do you think all games are close, or do you think we're going to get some blowouts? I think it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be 2-1 games. I'll tell you that. I don't know about blowouts. I don't know about 6-2s and stuff like that. I don't think it's going to be 2-1 games as much. I think the Panthers are going to pounce, no pun intended, on Stuart Skinner. And I think the Oilers' power play and all that will continue to be as lethal as always. I could see some 5-3s. I could see some 6-5s. No, I take that back. I don't think 6-5s as likely, but I could see some 4-2s empty netters, some 5-3s empty netters. I could see that. But who knows? I'm just here to enjoy the ride. I'm excited for it. Yeah, Ray Bork, great story as well for Ray Bork. So, ladies and gentlemen, that just about does it for me. It's been fun to go through round 1, round 2, round 3, and now after round 4, the Stanley Cup Final, we'll be live one last time. I'll be live with the man himself, Just Chillin', Slim Shady. We'll be live together here on StreamYard. We're going to go ahead and break it down in terms of, yes, the Stanley Cup Final that was, but also Slim's side, who were his biggest postseason chokers. That's going to be a fun time to look at, a fun one to listen to. Oilers got to break this Canadian no cup curse. I'd love that. As a Canadian myself, that would be great. I still think the Panthers take it. I think for all the reasons that I said, it's going in the Panthers' favor, but I would love to see the Oilers do it as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me for this breakdown. I look forward to doing it one last time. Always breaking news and analysis in the real world of hockey, breakdowns of the postseason, draft coverage coming up, free agency coverage coming up as well, busy summer around the corner, as well as all of our ongoing live stream series. We'll have our new franchise mode series on NHL 24 live on Monday evening, in addition to our expansion franchise mode on Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern, and always our MLB The Show 24 Montreal Expos live franchise mode series on Tuesday evening. So Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursday evenings, on top of all of our other uploads. When we ran the simulation on NHL 24, the game had the Oilers beating the Panthers in a 6-game series. So we'll see. Did NHL 24 get it right? Or maybe my side having things right in the real world side of things? That'll be a question. Grit, toughness, physicality. Let's go, baby. Panthers play old school hockey, and Slim loves it. Guys, do not miss Monday Franchise, our new franchise mode starting Monday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern. You don't want to miss that with like 30 created players. That's going to be a fun one. Thanks, everybody. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Comment down below on YouTube or over in the Discord server. Link in the description. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? And why? I'd love to hear the conversation continue. And I can't wait to watch this Stanley Cup Final starting on Saturday. I hope that you'll be excited as well. We'll be watching in the Discord server. We're over 650 members in there. So we'd love to have you join us for some fun, as we're going to have a lot of slander and just poking fun, but also just enjoyment of hockey itself. So thanks for joining us. We'll be live tomorrow on Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern, and we will be having the Canucks this weekend as well on NHL 24. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Have a lovely evening, and get excited for the Stanley Cup Final.